These are the linear programming day 4 notes. Feel free at any time during this video, if I'm moving too fast, to pause the video and get caught up. So this one is about super bats, which makes two different quality of bats, the home run and the grand slam. Those are going to be our variables. The home run takes 8 hours to trim, 2 hours to finish, and then it tells you the profit of 17. So remember, on part number 2, you're also asking about the money, so we're always looking for those dollar signs. So I see a dollar sign amount of 17 and another dollar sign amount of 29. 17x plus 29y. All right, and then we move on to what it takes in order to actually make these products. So just kind of skim through and see if you can find any words that you see often. I notice I see the words trim, so I'll do that in blue. I see it again here and over here. I'm going to go ahead and write those numbers. I have 8 hours to trim, so 8x. 5 hours to trim plus 5y is less than or equal to, and then total time per day trimming 80 hours. All right. The next thing I see as I look through here, I see the word finish. And finish is when you kind of put that glossy finish over top of a baseball bat. And I see again the finish numbers here. So I've got 2 hours to finish. And then 5 hours to finish. And then I see 50 hours. The last two inequalities are always going to be your x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is greater than or equal to 0. Now what's going to happen next is you are going to solve these for y. So let's work with our trim equation first, our blue equation. I'm going to subtract 8x, bring down the 5y, keep your unlike terms separate, then divide by 5. Y is less than or equal to. Negative 8/5 cannot be divided, so I'd rather leave it as a fraction, negative 8/5, x. Then you can grab your calculator and do 80 divided by 5. That should get you 16. Now let's move over to the pink equation. I'm going to follow the same steps. Subtract 2x. Remember to always put your x value first, so I'll put negative 2x plus the 50, making sure you don't actually add those two numbers together because one has an x and one doesn't. Divide by the 5. Negative 2/5 x plus 10. Once you've solved each of those, now you're actually ready to do step number 4, which is graph them. So I'm going to start with my blue equation. My y-intercept is 16. So I'm going to very carefully count here. I'm going to go all the way up to 16. And sometimes it's easy if you 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of mark it by 5s so you can count a little easier. There's 10, 15. And so 16, my first dot will go right here. Then I'm going to go down 8 and right 5. Count very carefully, down 8 and right 5. I'm going to do that pattern one more time. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a straight line here as best I can, all the way through to the other side. All right. Now we can do the same thing with our pink graph, pink equation. So I'm going to start up 10, And I've already marked my 10, so that makes it a little easier. And the equation is negative 2 over 5. So down 2 and right 5. Down 2, right 5. Down 2 and right 5. Continue that pattern. Then we'll just connect our dots to form our line. The last two equations we have are the x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is greater than or equal to 0. Those two I actually don't need to graph because they're going to be this line across the bottom and this line up and down the side. So if you want to graph over top of that, you can, but sometimes it's even hard to see just because you have that dark line here anyway. All right. So now you can see that we have this shape in the middle. I'm going to kind of color mine in just with a little light yellow right here. That's the shape that we're going for. That's the center of all four sides. This one over here is not it because you can see it's only got 3 sides and you need it to have 4 sides because you had 4 equations. So it's always going to be that centerpiece. Once you've drawn that, you are going to now create your table. So when it says find your points are your corner points. That's going to be this one down here, 0, 0. This pink one up here, which would be 0, 10. This one that's covered with pink and blue right here. Let's see, count very carefully. That looks like 5, 8. And then this one all the way over here. That looks like 10, 0. All right, so remember from our table, we put our x and our y. And right here is going to be the c equals equation. So I'm going to have to go back up to the top. This is what's going to go into the table. 17x plus 29y. Then we can just plug in the 0, 0 for the x and the y. Use your calculator and very carefully get an answer for that. That one got me a final answer of 0. All right, and I'm just going to do the same thing for the rest of these. Plugging in the first number for the x and the second number in for the y. Then use your calculator, do your multiplication, and then add in the 2 numbers. Add the 2 numbers together. I like the ones that have the 0 in it because I know 0 times anything is 0. So right here, 17 times 0, that's not going to get me anything. All I have to worry about is the 29 times 10. That's 290. Same thing down here with the last one. 29 times 0, that's 0. So I just multiply 17 times 10 to get 170. This one here in the middle, you might want to do in separate pieces, or maybe your calculator, you can just input the entire thing. When you get that careful answer, you get 317. Then we scroll to the bottom, we have 2 more questions. Number 6 says, what is the maximum profit? So a maximum is the biggest. So you want to look in your C column here all the way at the end on the right. And you're going to try to look for what number here is the largest. Well, the largest number I see is 317. So you're going to write an answer of 317. Then when it says how many of each batch should they produce, you're going to look at your 317 and you're going to go all the way over, and that's how many of each you should make. Remember 5, the X represented the home run bats, and 8 represented the grand slam bats. So I'm going to say 5 home run bats and 8 Grand Slam bats. All right, next problem. Very similar setup. So if I was you, I would pause the video and see if you can set up at least parts 1, 2, and 3. If you don't feel confident with that, that's okay. You can just keep watching. All right, my variables are going to be black and white tattoos. That's one. And the other are the color tattoos. The objective function to be maximized is the money. So $40 for the black and white and $130 for the color. Then we look and see the two types of things that this problem and what it requires in order to make your products. When I look through and read this, I see words that look like sketch, and I see other ones that actually here it's just tattoo. So that's the person actually putting the ink on your body. So we're going to do the sketch. Will be our blue. And then the tattooing it will be pink. All right, let's see if we can find all of our sketch numbers. It takes a tattoo artist 2 hours to sketch and 2 hours to sketch. All right, then they talk about tattooing. And then it says the employees have 16 hours to sketch. So I think I've found all 3 of my sketch numbers. I'm going to write that into my equation. 2x plus 2y is less than or equal to 16. Same thing with that tattoos. It says takes 2 hours to tattoo a black and white and 6 hours to tattoo a color and 24 hours available to tattoo. So 2x plus 6y is less than or equal to 24. All right, our last two, x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is greater than or equal to 0. Now we need to solve them. So again, now's a good time to pause the video, try to solve each one of those on your own for practice, and then you can start the video back up and see if you got it. All right, for this one right here, I'm actually going to reduce the fraction to negative 1/3. But if you wanted to leave it as negative 2/6, that would work as well. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that negative 1/1 to give me a fraction for my slope. So now that you have the 2 equations, well, technically the 4 equations, again, I would pause the video and see if you can graph them. Counting by 5s at the top and the bottom helps me be able to count carefully, but it's not required. I'll go up 8 and put a dot, down 1 and right 1. I'm going to continue all the way through to make sure I have a perfectly straight line. Same thing with a pink line, up 4. And down 1 and over 3, down 1 over 3. And of course, you have your 2 0 lines, so just straight down the y-axis and straight across the x-axis. Now, when you make this one, you can actually see there are several shapes that show up. You've got kind of this like triangle shape right here. You've got this other tiny little sliver down there. Those are not your answers. Because we had 4 lines that we are graphing, we want to make sure we have the 4-sided shape right in here. This is the one we need to be looking at. So, erase that if we need it. All right. So then we're going to come to our table, and we're going to come up with our ordered pairs. So I'll fill in the correct part of the table. We have to go up to the top part number 2 way up here in order to get our money. That goes in our table. 40x plus 130y. And then equals C. All right, let's find our corner points. You got the big one here, 0, 0. That's almost always one of your points. This pink dot up here is 0, 4. You've got this one where the 2 overlap. That looks like it's 6, 2. And you've got this blue one down here, 8, 0. Now would be another good time to pause the video, see if you can fill out the rest of that table, and then you can compare answers. All right, you should get answers of 0, 520, 320. Oops, excuse me, messed that one up. 500, and then 320. All right, so once you fill out the table, question number 6 says, what's the maximum value? So you look on the table on the right here and you find your biggest number. That number would be $520. $520 corresponds to 0, 4, which means I should make 0 of the X, 0 black and white, and 4 color tattoos. That's how you're going to make the most amount of money. All right, really nice job. If you have questions, you let us know.